Hello everyone. Um, Today I want to take a bit of time to talk about something that has been on my mind for a while. I was going to make a video earlier in the year about this, but things kept happening and it was all in the air for a while. So this is more of a story time, I guess. There's not a whole lot of there's not a main point that I'm trying to make with anything. So basically, it's just a discussion about things. I'll just get right to it, I guess. I have something called Aeropsia. Another name for it would be visual static or visual snow. Basically, it's just your eyes and your brain don't communicate to each other properly, so your vision is... I don't know how to explain it that well. When I try to talk to people about it, especially medical professionals, they don't believe me, and they don't understand either, it can be very irritating to try and get any kind of help. I remember the first time I talked to somebody about it. At first it was like a doctor, and they had no idea what I was talking about, so they didn't do anything about it. So I went to my eye doctor in town. Excuse the noise outside. I went to the eye doctor, and he's like, well, I can just give you some reading glasses, because you're a little farsighted. So I got glasses, and it didn't fix anything, didn't help anything. And then he referred me to an ophthalmologist, which is somebody who dilates your eyes and looks like deeper into your pupils to see any kind of damage, if there's any. And on top of the hellish ride it was just to get there, and the unnecessary amount of waiting time to see the man, when I did see him, it took less than an hour, less than half an hour. And it was very irritating because he asked a lot of questions that, I answered honestly. And then he looked into my eyes, and he's like, oh, well, your eyes are fine, so whatever it is, it's in your head. You can leave now. And that was really unprofessional. There was no other type of help offered or anything. He just said, not word for word, obviously, this was a few years ago, but he's like, well, it's not your eyes, it's your brain. You can leave now. And then he got up and he left the room while me and my mother were still in there, and just left, which was unprofessional and very irritating. And I'd moved around a lot before that and after, so I'm in a different place now, so once everything settles, I'll definitely try to see someone. And now that I know the term for it, because I had to do a lot of research on my own about everything, so now that I know what it is, I feel like I'll have a better idea of what to say and how to say it when I do talk to somebody. But basically, and I have some other things about my parts of my brain not communicating properly to each other, so I already have different problems in there, so it doesn't really surprise me. But it was weird to try and talk to people who have no idea what they're doing. Not necessarily what they're doing in general, but just that they have no idea how to handle me. And not that it hasn't happened before, but it's always a unique experience to try to go to somebody who you believe is a professional that can help you, and then they're like, oh well, I can't do anything, bye. I think when I first realized that it wasn't normal, what I was seeing, I think it was second grade. That's the earliest memory I have of other people being like, oh, you're weird. Because I remember we were drawing something. I don't know what we were drawing, but I'd finished the background of the sky and the grass and everything, And then I'd taken my pencil and I'd started, not stabbing the paper, but putting gray dots all over the sky because, like, I see this very thin, widespread, static-looking filter over mostly the sky. I mean, it goes over everything, but the sky is the most visible to me. So I was drawing the visual disturbances, if you want to call it that. And someone else was like, "Why are you drawing snow in your picture? Like, there's no snow." And I'm like, no, it's the stuff from the sky. And he's looking at me like, like, what? And I'm like, no, like the stuff, like the movie staticky thingies in the sky. And he's like, what? So I take him over to the window because we're at like the corner of the school, so our classroom had some big windows along the wall. So I take him over to the wall, and I'm like looking at the sky, and I'm like, well, what color is the sky to you? And he's like, well, it's blue. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what's in the sky? And he's like, clouds? I don't know, like the sun? And I'm like, no, what's in the sky? Because I'm trying to point out all the static to him, and he has no idea what I'm talking about. And that was the first time I remember someone being like, no, like, no one else sees this. Like, you're definitely weird. So then, from then on, I had asked, like, my parents, all of my siblings, everyone I knew personally. I was like, well, what do you see in the sky? Like, what do you see? And no one saw the same thing, which was very interesting. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I different? And then eventually I let it go. It was years later that we read a book. I'm trying to remember where I was when it happened. I moved around quite a lot, so I'm trying to get my memories in order because I have such a horrible memory. So if I pause and take a minute to think and collect myself, and it's just the wheels turning. I believe it was from here maybe 6 years ago. We'd read a book called A Mango-Shaped Space in class, and it was about a girl who had synesthesia, which is two or more senses combined, where she could, like, colors would appear in her vision when she heard things, and like a person's name had a distinct color and like feeling to it, which I can relate to, but it's not what I have. But when we first read the book, I was like, wow, because like I have similar things, like the things I see that people don't, the way I interact with them was very similar. So for a very short time while we were reading the book, I was like, well, maybe that's something I have. Maybe I just have a different version of it. And then I realized quickly that that's not what it was, because I did a bit of research on my own time and tried to get a better understanding of it, because I really wanted some answers, but I didn't want to be like, oh, this is what I have, and not like fully know what it is. So not long after that, I thought it was dyslexia, which it isn't. I'd done a bit of research about that too. I was very set on like finding what it was. So after a pretty long while, I mean, like I've been seeing this for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. It was fairly recent that I came across the visual snow was the first word I came up to. And because before that I had searched online, like Google Images, and I'm like, well, like the visual, like TV static in the sky, and nothing came up, no images, no information. But recently I decided to try looking it up again, because I was like, well, maybe I'm a bit smarter, maybe I'll use some different keywords and I'll find something. And thankfully I did, which was such a relief, honestly, to finally have like a word to be like, oh, this is what it is, I'm not crazy. But I'd found some GIFs and some images that I could show to people. I got so excited. Like I remember like saving all of these different images and GIFs and videos and screenshotting everything and then sending it to like all of the friends that I had at the time, and I'm like, this is what I'm seeing. Like I'm not crazy. Like this is, if you've ever heard me talk about this, if I've ever asked you about this, like this is what I'm being. And like I showed my sister, like as soon, because I'm very close to my sister, so I showed her and I'm like, look, like I was spamming her with images like this is what it is. Like I'm not crazy after all, which was super cool. And even after showing a lot of the people I had talked to, including my parents, they're like, oh, that's weird. You're not normal. I just thought you were making it up for like attention as a kid, but like you're weird. But that didn't bother me as much because like I knew that it was real to a point that like if I had just said something and everyone in the entire world was like, no, you're crazy, I would have believed it. But if I'd show them things that other people have experienced and created through their experiences, and they see the same things I see, and then I was called crazy, I'd be like, well, that's what you think, but this is real, so irrelevant. So for a while I thought it was just Aeropsia. Like I didn't know anything else. I hadn't really looked more into those kind of I don't really want to call it like a disorder, but because it's not a mental illness specifically, I don't think, but like calling it like a syndrome or like a disorder makes it has like a serious tone to it, and it's not that bad to deal with. So like I don't know, I don't want to make it sound like it's some serious like disorder. This is just Aeropsia, you know, visual snow, because that sounds nice. It's like, oh, visual snow. It's like I just feel weird about, because I've always had this thing where I don't want to say I have like a disorder, and it's not because I don't want to have like a disorder. It's hard to explain, but like I really have to get out of the mentality that I deserve to be treated the way I have been, and that having any kind of mental illness or any kind of disorder or syndrome, illness, whatever, like I have to get out of the mentality that like I can't say I have these things, like I can't admit to it for some reason or another. Like I'm not even sure why. I'm not a big fan of that. It's just, I guess there's like a mentality that I have about like everyone else can have it and be whatever they are and whoever they are, and I can't, or something. And I don't know. And it's not like a pride thing, like, oh, I can't have this, I have to be perfect, but like whatever I say, I'm faking, which isn't true and is hurtful to me and to everyone I talk to when I try to talk about these things. I need to get out of that mentality that like I'm not like I can't be honest or something. But after that, I'd done a bit more research, because Aeropsia is like one thing, and then I was like, well, that doesn't really talk about these other things I've been experiencing, and that like this other thing I've been doing. So what is this thing? And so after that stupidly long journey to find out the label, I'd found another one that also accurately describes a lot of the things that I see and I guess go through. I don't know. I don't want to make it sound too serious, because it's not that bad. So a few months ago, I found the term Irlen, I think it's Irlen syndrome, where basically like color affects how your brain communicates with itself and with its eyes or something, and that like I'll try to put up some kind of picture or something so that you can see what I'm talking about as I'm saying it. But it was another thing that I'd never heard anyone talk about, and like I don't have many friends in person, so a lot of times when I'm trying to talk about like things I see, most of the people that I know won't just don't experience these things. So I'll try to put up some more pictures because I am kind of at a loss for words trying to explain it. I'm not great with words, but I realized that with the Irlen syndrome, it does make reading a bit more difficult because if I stare at a page too long, or if I end up zoning out, or any number of reasons for it to happen, the words on the page start moving, and it gives me a lot of headaches. And if I'm trying to read on my phone, it's disastrous. And it's calmed down quite a bit since I was younger. But like when I was in school still, I would pick up books with lots of words and no pictures, not to read them, but just to look at the words and watch them move because that was entertaining. Or I would read things online and then not read on purpose, just to kind of zone out and watch the words move because that was more entertaining than the reading. And that definitely caused a good bit of issues in my school and with like all the work I was doing. Because even on printed out pages, when we do like workbooks and things, when we read our textbooks, the words would, stop moving, or like if I stared at it too long, the word would start disappearing, and like the words would become lighter or darker, and like I guess like saturation or something. But it would just really mess with my head, and I wouldn't be able to read for more than a minute or two, and it was really hard to do a lot of my work because a lot of it was reading and writing and more reading and more writing, and that was a bit of hell. So I finished school a completely different way. I went to a different program and finished it and took a test within like a few months, which was really nice, and they were very helpful. I didn't tell them that's what it was that I had. I just said that I didn't like public school because it was just harder and it was cramped and I just didn't like it. And that they didn't care. They really did not care. So I did a lot of different work that didn't involve lots of reading specific tasks, and that was very nice and very helpful. So after all that, it's been a while, and it's not something that I talk to a lot of people about, just because they don't seem to understand and they don't seem to really want to talk about it. I get very weird around new people that I meet, and I get really quiet, and I'm trying to be more extroverted and to talk more and to form more connections because I was very ostracized and very like ignored in public situations by most of the people around me. And like, not to be like, oh, poor me or whatever, but I want to be someone different than that. Like, I was I was very overlooked and ignored and left out of things, and that really sucks, and like I don't like that feeling. So I don't want anyone else to feel like that. So if I can help it, I'm trying to be more outspoken and be more inclusive with everyone and to be nicer to everyone, even when I feel awkward and when I feel like I should just be quiet or just sit down or something. And definitely trying to be the person I wish I had when I was younger, and having things like this that it's not really hard to deal with for me personally. So I don't want to be like, this is my big story of like overcoming this hardship or whatever. But even with it, and even with knowing how it felt to be left out of a lot of things, I was still I have a lot of anxiety that I'm also working to get past. So recently I'd made a friend. They come into the shop that my parents have, and I'd seen them before, but I never really talked to them. I always felt very awkward about it. But recently I took the step forward and put myself out there, and I showed them some of my art, which I don't usually show people. But they recognized the comic character that I'd drawn, and we bonded over that, and we became really good friends. Because I'd taken that step and tried to be more inclusive and tried to talk to them and get them in a conversation and connect with them, it worked, and I made a really good friend. And I mean, they moved away, so, we don't really hang out anymore, but I made a really good friend, and for the time we did hang out, it was very fun, and I was very glad that I was able to push myself to connect with someone when I didn't think I should, when I didn't think it was my place to, which it's a very stupid mentality that I have, of you need to sit down and shut up because nobody wants to listen to you anyway. That's a very hurtful mentality to have. And I have that mentality because of how I was treated when I was younger, and how different I was to everyone else. I was well, you're crazy. No one wants to listen to you. You need to sit down and shut up. It sucks because no one ever directly told me that, but they made me feel that way, and I gotta work to not feel that way anymore, because that's not the case. And so, like I said, this little story time didn't really have a point. I just wanted to get all that off, and I mean, what's better than to keep your most private thoughts than on the internet where everyone can see them? So, and maybe, I don't know, if someone does listen to it at some point in time, and they're like, oh, I relate to this, it could do something worthwhile, rather than just overthinking it and keeping it in my head like I usually do. I have some more upbeat stories that I would like to share with everyone, but I have such a hard time finding words and thinking of what to say next. I need to work on that too. I'll be uploading more, and there'll be more uplifting, better stories than this was. Or if you have anything you would like me to read or like to talk about instead, you're more than welcome to suggest it, because I don't have a lot of ideas for audio wise. It's just a lot of drawing video things that I want to do, but don't know what to put over it, if I should just put music, or if I should just talk, or if I should describe what I'm doing. I have no idea, so definitely leave some suggestions. Definitely leave some suggestions if you'd like to, and thank you for watching.